I'm really looking forward to this, my friend. And before we unpack this, what I wanted to ask you is trying to research you and what you do and Oz Pros. Can we actually go back to the beginning of how you started this, or are we just going to go to Oz 2.0? I mean, can we go to the beginning? Because I am shocked how many people that I talk to in the Cleveland area and researching opportunity zones this past week don't know what the hell opportunity zones are.
And Cleveland's got some amazing
we've got
ones.
incredible ones. And I was just telling Gianni, I'm like, dude, all of Ohio City is an opportunity zone. Metro Hospital, 25th, unbelievable opportunity zones. That, looking back years ago, I'm like, man, they're putting a lot of money into these areas. So I can't wait to have this conversation. I think this is going to be awesome. But do you mind going back to the beginning?
Not at all.
Okay.
No, I mean, I think that that's very healthy for us to do, so that way we can give, true kind of backstory.
I know how you are so well spoken on this topic, but I have like 3 or 4 questions that if you don't already answer, I'd like to answer.
Sure. Yeah. No, okay. I mean, let's just jump right into those.
Jump right into it. And I want to get your background. My guest, Ashley Tison with OZ Pros. Ashley, please tell us all about your background, opportunity zones, and how you got started in what you do.
Well, it's like that old country song by Rascal Flatts, God bless the broken road that led me here to you today. And, so I started out as a big firm litigator. After I went to law school at Chapel Hill, came back here to Charlotte. I played basketball at UNC Charlotte. That's actually what brought me down to Charlotte. And after the big firm had sufficiently sucked my soul, I went in-house with one of my former clients, which was a commercial real estate developer and tenant and common syndicator. So we would buy commercial shopping centers by the gallon and we would sell them by the scoop to 1031 investors. So I got a crash course, very sophisticated real estate transactional structuring on utilizing tax advantage stuff in order to do, to allow Main Street investors access to kind of sophisticated credit tenant type, arrangements. So when the commercial real estate market crashed, I went back to practicing law and I was doing M&A work. And we built another system, right, where we allowed Main Street level folks that own mom and pop businesses to take advantage of kind of Wall Street level sophisticated documentation. We put together a software package back before document automation and AI and stuff like that were happening all over the place. We were one of the pioneers. And in doing that, we were able to charge a lot less for bringing a very sophisticated level of transactional assistance to Main Street America. I sold that practice in 2018 so that I could help business owners keep more of what they make and do some of the tax mitigation stuff that I do today. And as I was doing that, I found out about these things called opportunity zones. And the guy that was talking about them, I ran him to ground after the CLE and I was like, hey man, that sounded like private equity and 1031 got married. And he was like, man, and they had this beautiful baby named opportunity zones. And so I was like, well, let's try it out. So we popped up a website just literally as opportunityzoneconsultants.com. And we had 150 inbound leads and $75 million worth of capital chasing deals in 2 weeks. And I was like, well, we're on to something. And literally I've been doing nothing but opportunity zones ever since. And so it's pretty exciting because I think that opportunity zones are the greatest place-based economic tax incentive ever legislatively created. And they have made a massive impact on areas that need investment. So that was the whole idea behind them, is that they wanted to create an incentive for private capital to go into historically underinvested areas, which has always been the bane of, kind of the public programs, tax incentives existence, is that they're like, how do we get private capital to partner with us in order to achieve public good? And so they came up with this novel concept of opportunity zones where they're like, okay, if you have a capital gain and you put that into a qualified opportunity fund within 180 days, that you get to defer that tax until a time in the future. And then if you get off the sidelines and you actually make this happen, in the next 1 to 2 years, right, back when they originally created the legislation, then we're going to give you an extra tax incentive. Oh, and then, hey, by the way, if you hold your investment for 10 years, we're going to give you this massive tax benefit in the form of a step up in basis to fair market value. And for your savvy investors and your savvy listeners, they understand that that's really significant, because the difference between your basis and what you transact at, your fair market value, that's what you pay in taxes. And oh, hey, by the way, if you've taken any depreciation that reduces your basis in the form of income, then you take that as income, not just as capital gains. Opportunity zones eliminate both of those. They eliminate capital gains tax, and they also eliminate depreciation recapture, which is a really powerful tool. And so as a result, they've gotten $150 billion worth of private investment into opportunity zones.
With a billion, with a
the program's working.
Wow.
Yeah.
Holy cow. That's unbelievable.
So that was a lot, but I think that the key thing is that, this is a big program, big incentive, but they knocked all the guardrails off of it to make it as of right. So you don't have to go ask for permission from anybody for this program. All you have to do is have a capital gain, put it into a qualified opportunity fund correctly. And a qualified opportunity fund can be as simple as an LLC taxed as a partnership. And it doesn't matter what kind of capital gain that is. It could be from real estate. It could be from the sale of a business. It could be from cryptocurrency. It could be from the sale of an appreciated baseball card. It doesn't matter. And you can take that capital gain, defer it, and so you get to come in tax advantaged, and then it grows tax free. And then, hey, by the way, when you exit, it's completely tax free. And so savvy real estate investors are really taking advantage of this in order to create generational wealth.
So let me ask you this, Ashley, just so tell me if I'm on the right path here. I have capital gains because I had a couple investment properties that I sold, and I have a capital gains problem. I've got $1 million sitting that I need to do something with. Now, most people would think I'm going to do a 1031 exchange and just buy another property, right? And defer the taxes for a little bit. If I was savvy enough and smart enough to reach out to a company like OzPros, you then would set me up with an opportunity fund, create a fund for me. I may not know where I'm going to put that in an opportunity zone, but am I getting prepared then to decide where I'm going to put that opportunity zone?
Yeah, it's absolutely.
Okay.
So there's a couple of great things of what you just identified. So first, if you're going to do a 1031, you got to know that before you sell. And so you got to put your money with a qualified intermediary at the transaction. And if you don't, it's called boot, right? So if you actually get the proceeds, your 1031 option is out the window. And then on top of that, if you do put your money with a QI, you now have 45 days to identify and 180 days to close, which that time frame can a lot of times be very tricky. Inside of the opportunity zone, and we help people with failed 1031s all the time. So if they don't hit their time period, when they get their money from their QI, that starts their 180 days. And so we're able to grab that cash, and we're able to set them up their own fund. We put it into their fund, and they got between 6 months and 12 months before they actually have to do anything with the money in their fund, first of all. We also set them up what we call a QOZB, a Qualified Opportunity Zone business, because you can meet your 90% investment requirement at your fund level by investing into a Qualified Opportunity Zone business, which once again can be an LLC taxed as a partnership that you own and control. So you put your 90% into your QOZB, and now you have another 31 months before you actually have to spend the money. So I've just bought you between 37 and 43 months before you actually have to put a nickel into any kind of investment inside of an opportunity zone. The other great thing about this is that it's not just real estate. So it's not just real estate that you're selling, and it's also not just real estate that you have to invest into. You could put this into an actual operating business that's going to transact inside of an opportunity zone, and that is a qualifying expenditure. So if you're going to start the next Facebook, do it in an opportunity zone, because after 10 years, you're going to pay zero taxes when you go to exit it.
Ashley, so those were all great points. And what I want to make sure that the listeners understand, let's say that I don't want to be in an opportunity. You set me up you got me all set up. But could I go to your company? Could you put me in funds in South Carolina, in Las Vegas, in Puerto Rico, or do I have to be in the opportunity zone in my area where I live?
No, not at all. You can invest into, so there's 8,753 of them, and you can invest into any of those zones. So all of the island of Puerto Rico, 98% of the island of Puerto Rico is an opportunity zone. There's ones, like you said, in Las Vegas. I've got some great fund sponsors that are doing funds in there. And the other great thing is, and this is what we do a lot, is we'll set people up a captive opportunity fund so that we stop their 180-day clock. So we put it in. So if they had a stock sale, that's 180 days from the date of the sale. And so they got to get it into a fund within 180 days. There's nothing that I can do about that if they miss that. Now, if it came off of a K1, so if the gain's coming to you from a real estate sale that you own through a partnership, or you get somebody bought you out through an S corporation, then I can go all the way back to January 1st of the previous year, all the way up till September 10th of the following year. And so I've got a really long runway relative to K1 gains. So if I get it into a fund that stops my 180-day clock, and now I've got flexibility to be able to now look at stuff, because I've got between 6 months and a year, depending on when I invest. And so that gives me time to be able to go look and see if I want to do my own deals, or I then can go look at some of the professionally managed deals that will accommodate investment at the QOZB level. So all of our deals that we have, we do it to where we specifically accommodate investments from other captive fund owners, and they can co-invest alongside of us in a professionally managed deal. And so there's lots of flexibility. You can do your own deal. You can invest into another company. You can start your own company inside of an opportunity zone, or you can invest with a professional sponsor like us or Caliber, right? Who are doing, they do multifamily deals. They got a pickleball project right now. We got Pinnacle that's got single family rentals, like build to rent deals that are all across the country. We've got some other great sponsors that we work with that we can put in front of people to look at relative to investments they want to make.
Ashley, do you actually, OzPros, why would any investor try to go at this alone? Why would I not want to be with OzPros? It sounds like not only do you set up these funds, but I think you're called the OZ Sherpa. And
that's right.
You know what a Sherpa is? A guide. A Sherpa,
that's right,
make sure you get to the summit of what your summit is tax-free generational wealth. So why would I not want to be with a professional like you to get me to this point?
Yeah, and so I mean, because they made it really simple, a lot of people are like, well, I think I can do this on my own. And we deal with a lot of those that we have to fix. And a lot of times we can fix them. The biggest issue that I see that comes up is that people will buy property in an opportunity zone in their individual name with the hope that they're going to be able to quit claim. They're like, oh, I can just go set this QOZB up later, and they mess it up that way. We've seen we've seen it all across the board, right? And the key is that if you have a capital gain, or if you're doing a deal in an opportunity zone, at the very least, go watch our videos out there on YouTube if you're going to try to do it yourself. A lot of times people have their kind of traditional CPA, and they're like, oh yeah, I've heard about opportunity zones. We can figure that out. And there's deep nuances to them that a lot of times they can get caught in that they're unawares of. And so, I mean, we've done this, literally, this is all we do. And so accordingly, not only are we very well versed in the expertise of it, but we've also been able to get the pricing way down. So I can understand if people are like, hey, listen, this seems like a complicated thing. I don't want to have to hire a white shoe firm that's going to charge me $1 gazillion to do this. We've actually gotten the pricing structure down to where it's affordable for Main Street level investors. That's our main objective, is to put this really powerful program into the hands of regular investors just like me and you.
And I saw on your website, you do a lot of educating. There's a lot, I think you do, I don't know if it's seminars, you do like weekly calls with your clients, and they really know what's going on. So at the time, do you have a retain? Do people stay with you more than 5 years, 10 years? Because it sounds like that 10-year point is the real number that you need to be in these opportunity zones to see the full benefit.
Yeah, correct. And so, I mean, I would say that the lion's share of our clients are probably 2 to 3 years worth of like where we get them going. And then we get them past the substantial improvement. We get them to where they're actually built out. And then once that happens, we get them on like a regular reporting rhythm to where they are usually comfortable handling their audit trail themselves, because we walk them through the process. We do it for them on the front end. And we're there with weekly calls where they can jump in a call with me and they can hear what other people are doing. They can hear what other people's issues are. And then they get a feel they put the reps in themselves so that they're comfortable and actually getting their deals done. And then once their deals are done, a lot of times it's a lot easier from a reporting standpoint. Then they just have to hold on to them. And so a lot of times it's usually about 2 to 3 years for them to make that happen, just depending on delays and all that kind of stuff. But once that happens, then they're usually okay and they can kind of fly out on their own. But the real, the real monetary value in this is that it's not a one-shot deal. So you could start your opportunity fund, you could put your money into a deal. This is what I did. I sold a mobile home park on the west side of Charlotte, and I generated, it was okay gain, but it wasn't huge. It wasn't earth-shattering. I started my fund with that, and then I started going out and I got other folks that wanted to participate in that with me, and we started scaling it up. And we're going to be able to take those deals that we did, we're going to be able to bring leverage in on them, refinance them, and I could either distribute that money out to my investors, but my investors are like, wait, why would I want to take that money out of a tax-free environment? I'd prefer to roll it into the next deal. And I can build this juggernaut that's eating tax-free behind the veil. So the seventh wonder of the world is compound interest. The eighth wonder of the world is tax-free compound interest. That's what we have. We've got a vehicle that allows you to be able to get that snowball rolling with tax-free compound interest that you're going to be able to start executing on 10 years out. And it's not how long you have to hold it, it's how long you get to hold it. You get to hold it 30 years. So imagine being able to have this vehicle that's generating this tax-free growth for 30 years. That's powerful stuff.
Mm-hmm. So when I'm thinking opportunity zones, I'm thinking distressed neighborhoods, lower income neighborhoods that they want to see have a rebirth, a renaissance. So if you're getting all this private equity money in here and the opportunity zones, maybe you're going to do a full-scale development, apartments. There was a bunch of old, dilapidated commercial buildings that they bring retail back into. When people are doing this, do you see some opportunity zones that are some the question is, are some opportunity zones better than the other? And then are there some that just aren't going to work and you stay away from?
Sure. I mean, that's all real estate, right?
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of this goes into how the states designated the zones. So back in 2017, when the legislation came out, in early 2018, the governors got to designate up to 25% of their low-income census tracts, and then they could designate some adjacent tracts too, and they could pick those, and then they could designate those as opportunity zones. And so some states got really intentional about saying, okay, we want to take some that have low-income areas, but we also want to look at investability, and we want to designate the zones that we think are going to be really attractive to investors, so that way we can bring money into those areas. Other states like Massachusetts, so Alabama and Pennsylvania are two really good examples of that. And as a result, they have received the most amount of opportunity zone investment. And so, I mean, who would think Alabama, that they would be at the top of the list for receiving investment dollars? But they just did a really good job of getting intentional about how they built a whole program around opportunity zones. Massachusetts, on the other hand, number one, exempted out of the program, so you don't get the state benefit. And then number two, they were like, hey, we're just going to designate all of the lowest income zones. And as a result, they've received the least amount of investment from opportunity zones, just because, like to your point, there are some zones that are better than others. Now, so this is a really powerful program, but when they put it in place, it had an expiration date. That expiration date was 12/31 of 2026. And so last year, there was this perception that opportunity zones were dead, which is not the case, but there was a perception along those lines. Well, enter the one big beautiful bill that was passed in July 4th. And in that one big beautiful bill, they re-upped a lot of the provisions of the Tax Cut and Jobs Act. And so inside of that, one of the things that they did was they made opportunity zones permanent. And so now the governors every 10 years will get the ability to redesignate new opportunity zones. They tightened up the eligibility, so you can't have contiguous tracts anymore. And they made the poverty level a little bit higher relative to like the threshold on, like, it has to be a really, poorer community. And so I think that we're going to see, a fair amount of kind of moving around inside of their new designation that'll start happening in later 2026. Now, the good news is that the current zones as designated don't expire until December 31st, 2028. So what this new legislation creates is this window for people to be able to invest and to get the benefits of OZ 2.0, but still go into a 1.0 zone, and to be able to get projects grandfathered in those zones that they can then execute after that December 31st, 2028 deadline. And so we're getting a lot of interest and a lot of activity from people that are like, oh, wow, these are here to stay. I need to make sure that I'm incorporating this into my investment strategy as a whole because of how powerful it is being able to go into private real estate deals that are ultimately going to come out tax-free, or go into private placements and private business opportunities where they're going to grow a company and be able to do that tax-free. So it's definitely gotten people's attention now that it's permanent.
Ashley, have you seen firsthand that not only are people making wealth, but there has been true community impact through opportunity zones? Have you seen the impact that it's had on these opportunity zone communities?
So when I was playing basketball in college, when we would play pickup ball, like if somebody was like, they contested a foul, we'd shoot for it, right? Because the ball don't lie. And the ball don't lie in the case of the numbers coming out of what the results have been, the statistics. And the studies that have come out have shown that between peers, between low-income census tracts that are similarly situated, ones that got designated opportunity zones have had a massive increase in property values, in median home prices, and a significant decrease in poverty levels. And there's also studies that show that that people, even if they are in poverty, if they're surrounded by people that are coming out of poverty, that they have a much higher chance of getting out of it themselves. And so that's what's happening inside of opportunity zones. That's just the statistics on the existing zones. And the reason is this, is that when you bring in new dollars into an area, it just can't, literally, it can't help but rise the tide for everybody that's in that area. Now, is there going to be gentrification, and are there the issues associated with that? Absolutely. But I think that, as you look at what the positive results have been as it relates to things that are happening inside of these communities, it's the stuff that we want to see. It's working at a macro level. Now, at a micro level and on a project-based thing, I can give you story after story of really cool public initiative type arrangements that are being done by the private sector. So I had a guy that bought a old failed development, and it was basically a stub farm, and he turned it into an autism community. So he built these, fourplexes where autistic folks could come and live, and they could build community there. He brought in the services for them. He started a farm that was growing chickweed that they're going to use in protein supplements. And he's got jobs for all of these autistic folks and a way for them to be able to interact inside of a community that's safe and that's secure.
That's fantastic.
And that deal doesn't happen but for opportunity zones. I've got story after story relative to exactly that type of thing. I got people starting incubators on reservations where they're teaching people how to do business. I got people where they are, they're rehabbing crack houses. And when they rehab that crack house, there's a coffee shop that ends up coming in that neighborhood. And then, now there's a grocery store that's coming in too, that's eliminating a food desert. And the positive downstream effects just keep, inside of those stories, it just keeps rolling. It's positive snowballs instead of negative ones. And I've got story after story of that from the thousands of clients that we've served.
That's fantastic. That's good stuff. I'm glad that what I was at, you nailed that. And it's just so good to hear that it's not just richer getting richer. It is positive impact.
And there was a lot of negative publicity about this when it first came out, because hey, let's face it, right? People are going to take advantage of tax programs regardless of whether they're actually doing good stuff like that or whether they're just putting up another, really nice hotel. But here's the thing, is that if they are impacting and if they're doing development in these areas, it's going to have downstream positive impact from an economic standpoint. And so if we can incentivize people to do these deals, it's going to have impact even on the deals that are going to get done. But I have firsthand anecdotal evidence of deals that wouldn't have gotten done but for this program that I could completely undercut any kind of naysayer that's out there. So, the folks that were writing those articles about that this is just a program for the rich to get richer, I got at least 20 stories where that's not the case.
So if somebody's not a huge developer and it's just a small time investor, but they like to buy distressed houses and they like to fix up, hold, and rent and buy stuff. If you're doing that in an opportunity zone, is there some kind of specification that cannot be a slumlord? You actually have to spend money and improve these properties, improve the storefronts. You can't just try to be a slumlord.
I got to hand it to, a big shout out to Emily Lavery and Tim Scott and his whole office. Shay Hawkins, actually Shay's kind of in your neck of the woods up there in Cleveland. But they did an awesome job in 3 pages of legislation of not only getting the attention of private capital, getting it off the sidelines, making it patient, but then they also made it so that it was going to be really difficult to game the system. And so one of the things that they were concerned about was that people would just land bank, right? Hey, I'm going to go buy stuff in these distressed areas, and I'm just going to sit on it and wait for the value to increase, but I'm not going to actually do anything with it. And so they put in a substantial improvement requirement that you actually have to do something to it. So it's either got to be original use, so you got to build something new, or if it's raw land, you just got to do something with it, right? If it's farmland, you got to put it into a different use, that kind of drill. But if you're buying an existing building, you have to double the basis of the value of the building. And so if you got $1 million piece of property that you're buying and the building's worth $550,000, you got to put another $550,001 to it. Now, under 2.0, they put special provisions in there for rural opportunity zones where they cut that in half because they understood that, hey, we really want to incentivize people to do deals in rural areas because these are the places that are still inside of the original 1.0. They were getting a disproportionate share of the investment. Most of the stuff was going into urban type transactions. And so they put special incentives in for rural deals. So a 30% reduction in taxes when you go to pay them 5 years out, and then a 50% requirement relative to that substantial improvement threshold. And so they did a great job of making it so that you actually have to do something. And then for your businesses, you actually have to be located in the zone. You got to have your employees working in the zone, which by very definition is going to bring positive benefit for that area. You got people coming, going, buying lunch, spending money inside of that area. And so they did it. I got to hand it to them that in a very few pages of legislation that they were able to give investors lots of flexibility, but they were also able to make it so that it's really tough to game the system.
Yeah, in the areas that I've seen this happen in doing my research, huge economic impact, huge neighborhood impact, just changing the way areas are viewed. Some of them have become really hot, trendy areas in the Cleveland market. So here's $1 million questions. I want to get into opportunity zones, and I want to call, be a member with you. But where do I start finding, like, what are the opportunity zones around me? Where would I find that this place is an opportunity zone and this place is an opportunity zone? Is there a place that a average person could just go online and find opportunity zones, Ashley?
Sure, absolutely. So if you go to ozpros.com/map, you can search by address. You can search by region, so you can zoom in on the map and you're like, hey, listen, I want to see where all the ones are in Cleveland. You can literally type Cleveland, Ohio. It'll take you right there. And then you can pan around to see which, like where the areas that are in blue on that map, those are the designated opportunity zones. Okay. And so we wanted to make it as easy as possible for people to be able to interact. And so if you go to ozpros.com/map, you can check that out.
Fantastic. Are there certain when you're working with an investor and you see these opportunity zones, and I got to imagine, like you said, year after year there could be new ones popping up all the time, correct?
No, so the opportunity zones, the original ones were set back in 2018, and the new ones will get set this year. And then it'll be another 10 years before the next round gets designated. Okay,
so I said that wrong. There are new opportunity zones coming out this year.
That's right.
Okay, so when you see this kind of stuff, you as the expert, do you see stuff and say, I like this as I'm going to build stuff from the ground up. This should just be redeveloped. Do you kind of guide stuff and know which are the best plays in each zone?
We certainly have helped people inside of our mastermind to do that and to kind of do analytics on that. And it's certainly something that we can do. It's really tough to do that at scale because there's so much individual specific things about an individual deal, and that a lot of times people will come to us and they'll be like, hey, listen, I got this one nuance relative to, I've got this particular project and I've got an X amount of dollar building on it, but what can I do in order to get this substantial improvement threshold? And so we'll help them, come up with that. We got questions like, well, hey, I've got 5 different properties that I'm buying. 2, I know I can hit the substantial improvement. 3, I can't. Can I consolidate? What are some other strategies that I can use in order to be able to maximize, what I'm doing here? And we'll walk them through that strategy, no problem. And that's what we do literally every Tuesday from 10 to 11:30 Eastern. It's an hour and a half where I'm walking people through those exact kinds of questions. And you're hearing what other people are asking, right? So that way, a lot of times we don't know what we don't know. And so you hear other people ask, and then you're like, oh man, I never thought about that. And so that community's been awesome. It's actually the highlight of my week, and it's continuing to grow. We're adding in stuff into that community all the time, and I think that's probably actually going to be that's what we're really focused on this year, is how we can bring more value to those folks. So we've got an exchange in there, so people have deals that they either want to sell or they're looking for investors. They can post their deals inside of that community. They get their questions answered. We've got a whole host of tools, right, of other tax mitigation tools that they can layer on top of opportunity zones. Because when you do an opportunity zone transaction, you're going to ultimately have the tax come due. So anybody that invested from 2018 on they have a tax that's coming due in 2026. We got some strategies for how they can decrease that tax and how they can implement other things in order to reduce that tax. Cost segregation studies, change of accounting practices, other types of things, and then other investments that they can do in order to also further reduce it. Equipment rental, solar, that kind of thing. And so the Augusta rule, right? So other tax layups that are out there that we're implementing ourselves that we're opening up to the folks inside of our community. And that's been really exciting. And then we've got a whole 1.0 versus 2.0 strategy that we're helping people with too, to evaluate whether it makes sense to go into 1.0 and get the discount, or whether it makes sense to roll into 2.0 and then get another 5 years of deferral.
Gotcha. So after this show goes live, I am going to get bombarded with questions. And a lot of people are going to, think, oh, I'm an expert on it. I am not. You are the expert. How do people get a hold of Ashley Tison and OZ Pros? What should be their first thing they do?
Well, if the conversation has them thinking about how opportunity zones could help them fund their projects in their community, improve after-tax returns on deals they're already doing, or look at deals that they could do in opportunity zones, we put together a podcast listener tax-free wealth starter kit. And if they go to ozpros.com/podcast, they're going to be able to get that. It's also got, there's inside of your show notes, we've got a special link for your listeners.
Fantastic.
And they're going to get a 15-minute masterclass, a plain English guide that they can share with their CPA or their other partners, a quick cheat sheet, so an opportunity zone cheat sheet that's got all opportunity zones on a page. And then they're also going to be able to get access to the map that shows where the opportunity zones are across the country. So we'd love for your listeners to go to ozpros.com/podcast or click the link in the show notes below.
Oh, that's fantastic. What didn't we cover that you would like to share with everyone?
So there's an old Chinese proverb about when was the best time to have planted a tree? And 30 years ago, right? Second best time is today. When was the best time to have started an opportunity zone fund? 2018. When's the second best time? Right now. Because it's all about getting your 10-year clock started. Once your 10-year clock is up, this is a really powerful tool because everything that you own inside of that fund is eligible for the step up in basis to fair market value. And so that allows you to continue to do deals inside of the opportunity zone, even though you haven't held that deal for 10 years. That's the magic of this program. Get going today because it's a massive opportunity for everybody to create generational wealth.
I mentioned to you before we started that I had a conversation with a lot of investor friends of mine, developers, and none of them really were well versed in this. They're like, I think I heard something about it, but it still sounds like it's very infinite stage, and it's the second wave is going to bring a lot of investors to you. Do you have a lot of competition in what you do?
There's really probably a handful of us that are experts in this kind of across the country. And I would say that there's really not anybody that's doing it at scale that's focused on trying to bring this down to the masses, if you will. And so we really don't have any competition that's like really in the business of generating funds and that's got a community out there where we help people to actually do opportunity zones and do the compliance. And there's a lot of CPAs and attorneys out there that are kind of doing this too. We actually love helping them. So we've actually got a number of them that are in our mastermind. We welcome those folks in. There's so much opportunity, once again, that word out there inside of this industry that I don't look at people as competitors. I look at them as collaborators. And so if there's somebody out there that's doing this stuff that wants to scale, I would love it because I've got so much interest and we got so many people coming in that there's always a play for us to be able to utilize people that are good, whether that's CPAs, whether that's lawyers, whether that's financial advisors. We need more people getting versed in this space because there's so much interest and there's so much demand. So we welcome those folks to come in and join our community. Whether you're interested, you want to do it yourself, whether you're an expert, whether you're a broker, we'd love to have you come in, get your PhD in opportunity zone so we can put you to work.
Yeah, I love that, Ashley. So you speak with so much passion and you're so well spoken on this topic that I can't imagine that anybody would want to go with anyone else but you. So I appreciate you coming on. I think this has been a fantastic conversation. I've learned so much in the last couple of days just researching this, and it's something that I'm definitely going to want to do. Well, this has been great, my friend. I really enjoyed speaking with you. Anything else you need to add that I didn't cover? Because I think I didn't even have to go to my questions because you hit every point.
Well, I think that to your point, right? So like if you're interested in OZs or you're interested in tax-free generational wealth, come check us out, join our mastermind. Our goal in life is to make generational wealth creation and tax savings fun and meaningful. And, that's usually atypical, right? You usually don't associate those two with being fun and meaningful, but that's our whole raison d'existence. And so we'd love to invite people in and show them the way.
So just tell me if I'm correct here. This is the simplest terms I can explain this on investing. In any traditional investment, Ashley, when you sell, you pay the tax and you have whatever's left to invest in a traditional investment. 1031 exchange, you defer the taxes, you're rolling it into another real estate deal, but eventually you're going to pay the tax man.
That's right.
In an opportunity zone, where that differs, you defer the taxes, and if you hold it long enough, I think you said 10 years, you can eliminate taxes on that new investment entirely. Am I correct?
That's right. So you're gonna defer the taxes for 5 years under 2.0. You're gonna pay the taxes, but it's gonna be a reduced amount on your original gain. And then it gives us a runway to be able to do some other tax planning, when you go to pay those taxes 5 years out. But the key thing is that your new investment comes out tax-free. And that's the really, really, really big benefit of the OZ program. The other thing is that to your point about 1031, is that when you roll, a lot of times people are like, well, I'm going to get the step up in basis at death. And so that's the problem, is that you get the step up in basis at death. And if you are above $30 million as a married couple, $15 million individually right now, then you have to pay 40% of whatever that amount is above $15 million within 180 days. And so that's a much overlooked item about 1031 exchange. And so that can be a real issue for some people that are very heavily involved in real estate. With opportunity zones, you eliminate that problem because the amount that goes into your fund is the amount that goes against your estate, not what the value is. And so if you had $1 million gain and you rolled that over into an opportunity zone fund, and then you were to get run over by the proverbial bus 10 years out, 15 years out, whatever it is, your estate is going to step into your shoes, and it's only going to be $1 million that goes against that lifetime exemption amount, not the value of what it is. That $1 million could be $15 million worth of assets at that point in time. It could have grown 10, 15, 20x, and the only amount that's going to go against your estate is the $1 million that you put in. And so opportunity zones not only preserve the tax-free benefit for your next generation, but they also make it so that it's a poor man's irrevocable trust for purposes of freezing your estate value.
That's interesting stuff. Were you, did you climb a mountain, or is that just a logo, part of the OZ Sherpa thing? Or did you climb a mountain and summit at one point?
So I climbed this mountain. It's called Crowder's Mountain. It's out here in Gastonia. It's about 1,800 feet.
Okay.
And we do that every Saturday. And I've done some chunks of the Appalachian Trail with my son. But I'm not a mountain climber per se, right? So like nothing like Kilimanjaro or anything like that. But I love the outdoors. I'm a huge fan of that. I love hiking. Mm-hmm. I've gotten into rucking. And, so we took that relative to like incorporating that into, our brand value proposition is that we're going to help you reach the summit. We're going to guide you along the way. So that way you don't stumble, you don't fall off any cliffs. and that you get there as safely and as efficiently as possible.
That's great stuff, Ashley. Great stuff. I appreciate you so much, my friend. You really know your stuff. And any major investor, small investor, you would be a fool not to contact the OZ Sherpa, Ashley Tison. Thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed this conversation. Make sure to follow us on social media at MDV The Blueprint on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. We post a ton of great content. And please don't forget to subscribe to our podcast channel so you never miss out on an episode. Thanks again, and see you next time.